Hello, this is PMC Trilogy. This video features a post-run commentary for my current personal best in Slave Zero for the PC, the any percent speedrun. This is again, of course, is the RTA time of 50 minutes and 21 seconds, which is currently world record as of the time of recording, but certainly I think can be improved. Let's get right into it. If you're not familiar with Slave Zero is a 1999 game released for both PC and Dreamcast by what was not long before Accolade. This is one of Accolade's last games. At this point, the studio has been renamed Infogrames North America. This is one of two games that they made under that name, the other one being a test drive game. So right away, you can see that we're ignoring most enemies, and we are using diagonal movement. The strafing movement, if you're going sideways, strafing, you're going faster. So that's how you're getting that jet animation. You can see there I also picked up an improvement for the primary weapon. You have three types of weapons in this game. You have a primary bullet weapon, a secondary energy weapon, and a rocket weapon. In this first level, we have to destroy this energy generator. It is possible to jump over it, but it's harder than just blowing it up since it doesn't really have that much health. Many of the levels in this game are divided into several sections, as you can see in the splits there. For example, this is the comm tower section, and there's comm tower A and comm tower B. We've blown up two generators. There's a third generator that we need to get to, but that third generator is behind a locked door, and opening the locked door requires defeating a boss. In Slave Zero, there is a mantling mechanic, a sort of ledge grab that pulls you up, which is why I'm calling it mantling. And so what we're trying to do here, this one's a little finicky, but what you need to do is you need to kind of mantle twice out of bounds. Each time you mantle, it pulls you out of bounds a little bit more. And then when you do it right, like that, you're able to jump out of bounds and you can shoot past the door using only your primary fire. There are things in the way that will interrupt energy weapons or rockets, but because the primary fire is hit scan, it works and it blows up the generator. So now we're on to a few more levels. We're really just going to be pushing through. Our goal is just to run past everything and then kill enemies when we need to. Is our main thing. So mostly it's a lot of knowing where you're going and knowing how to not take damage. For example, here I kill an enemy, make you spend that time because otherwise he would have been in my way, and I don't want to get body blocked by like I did by that guy. Generally speaking, as much as possible, I'm trying to stay on the ground, but jumping, the enemy really has trouble jumping. So here we have to destroy two enemies to open the elevator, but we don't have to destroy the enemy that comes out of the elevator. We can just go straight in there. So now we're going to keep going on. A funny side note about this game is that there is a voice that's kind of speaks to you. It's like an old man voice, and that voice is Charles Martinet, who you may better recognize as the voice of Mario in pretty much everything. I'll try and point it out when it happens. So here will be another situation again. We're running past everything, and then at the end of the level, we need to destroy a particular enemy. Actually, we have to destroy a spawner and an enemy. Spawners are these elements on the ground from which enemies emerge. They have some very useful properties that will be apparent later in the run because they have some unusual jumping properties that allow us to sort of pop over them. So here I blow up one spawner and then I blow up that guy. This will activate the elevator. And again, don't have to kill the guy who comes out of the elevator. You can just get past him. Although sometimes if he stands in the way, you need to deal with that. All right, so now we're on to the lab attack. At this point, we're trying to destroy the bad guys. So the plot of this game is that the rebels stole the bad guy super weapon prototype, and we're now in control of the bad guy super weapon prototype. But we're going to try and prevent the rest of his prototypes from coming online, and in fact steal them for our own team. Yep, so a lot of this is maneuvering around. Anytime you're in tight spaces, you really got to understand, are the enemies going to be flying? Are they going to be on the ground? Because I want to either be on the ground or be able to jump over them, both to avoid damage as well as to just get by faster. Some of the levels are quite quite funny shaped. Like, for example, there was so much to my right, but it was really just a level where I needed to bend around to the left. Here is one of the, I think this is one of 2 boss skips in the game. This one is particularly delicious. We're supposed to fight this large Nemesis cruiser, but as it happens, the game actually allows us to stand on the Nemesis cruiser, so we can jump right across onto its wing, and then there's this object sticking out that we can use to jump back in bounds around the door, and the battle carrier explodes out of embarrassment. It's good. It's good every time. I have not gotten tired of doing that. So now we are almost at the what I think of as the first boss, since we don't really fight that boss. The bosses that we do actually fight in this game, our main intention is just to make sure that we have the weapons that we need. And like, for example, in the first level, I had picked up a plasma weapon to allow me to fight the bosses. These enemies, so this was the first mini boss that we skipped. Those enemies, we fight them repeatedly throughout the run. And the trick with them really is to keep your distance and use rockets. If you get too close to them, they enter into an invulnerable guarding state, which makes it very slow to fight them. Alright, so here's the first real boss, Arglist. And we just unload on him. He does have little chunks of armor. You can see that break off into nice thick polygons. But otherwise, we really just pummel him with the energy weapon that we picked up in the first level and the rockets that we pretty much, I think, started with. Yeah, I think this is the rocket launcher that we started with. There's a very important rocket launcher that we go out of our way to pick up as soon as possible later in the game. So now we enter the slowest portion of the run, unfortunately, which is Sewer War and Escort Run. Sewer War does have some nice door skips, though, which will be very exciting. One of the more fun parts of the game as a speed run. So mostly we're doing our normal thing of running past enemies in Sewer War A. You gotta open those doors by shooting them. You can do that from far away. I definitely want to be using the primary fire bullets for doing that. So here you might notice these doors have a diagonal across them. What you want to do is walk up to the door, look left and right using the mouse, and eventually you will mantle into the door. Walk up the door, and then jump forward. You need to jump forward a little bit. You can't just walk forward. If you jump forward a little bit, you'll be able to land such that the hallway behind the door will load, and then you can skip that door. We do this a few times, so we do it once more here as well. So you can see again, walk up to the door, right in that joint, mantle onto that piece, walk up a little bit, and then once you walk up a little bit, you start jumping. It is finicky, so you see here I have to reset myself. I had a lot of trouble learning this initially, and then I got it much more consistent. Yeah, once you really get Slave Zero's head into the to the door frame rather than the door itself is usually when you're able to jump out. Ideally, we get it like we got the first door skip, but sometimes the game doesn't like it when you mantle out of bounds. You can mantle through that door as well, but it's quicker just to shoot the guy in front because that's the guy who unlocks the door after dying. You notice there I picked up a photon burst cannon. That cannon will be useful for the next boss fight. In the Sewer War and Escort Run levels, there are lots of weapon pickups hiding in the water, and we want to make sure that we grab the ones that are useful for us. The really useful one will be at the beginning of Escort Run B. That will be super important. This section of Sewer War B mostly comprises waiting for enemies to spawn or sometimes walk through doors and blowing them up as they arrive. There isn't too much risk of the rebel base actually dying. Your goal really, of course, is just to end the sequence as soon as possible. You can see me making faces because of the time loss on the second door skip. So there I picked up a new missile, but that's not actually the missile that I want. The missile that I want, again, will be at the beginning of Escort Run B. But that missile will be useful here. We are now in an escort mission sequence, sadly. It's a true crime to have to deal with this sort of thing in a speed run, but we haven't found any skip for it yet, so we do it the honest way, or mostly the honest way. We are pretty much able to go ahead. The game doesn't have any sort of failure condition for being too far away. We do get to hear the voice actors say the phrase "suck door" a number of times. Yeah, mostly these doors are timed. They're not dependent on killing enemies. Yeah, suck door is opening. So now we're going to have another sequence where we just run ahead, wait for doors to open. This game does have melee, but the only way melee works is if you walk right up to something that can be attacked, such that it turns the reticule red. You will do a melee attack instead of firing whatever weapon you have selected. Yeah, here we have an enemy that drops little explodey boys that explode on you if they climb on you. So we're almost at the end of Escort Run A here. We have kind of this one more sequence to go where they're just going to come down to this door. We do have to diverge from them briefly. Run past some spiders. You might notice that I'm mantling onto these walls here, but even if you mantle past the door, you still need the boats in order to finish the mission. They are a part of the victory condition for the mission insofar as we can tell. All right, so now this will finally be the resting point. Once we get beyond this next door, 3 enemies in here that we're going to take care of. Pretty much in all these circumstances, we're taking care of these enemies mostly to have something to do. They present some threat to the boats, but I would not say there is a high risk of the boats being destroyed. This area here that I'm just sort of dancing over is where the useful missile launcher will spawn once the next level loads. Yep, so that's the first escort run. And now we begin escort run B, but we need to run right over here. And once you see Valhalla missile launcher pick up, see, I'm panicking briefly because I'm like, where is it? Where is it? There it is. Valhalla class rocket launcher. That is essential. That's going to make a lot of our later fights much quicker. Will be absolutely crucial for some of the bosses we fight. So it's really important to stay close to this door because as soon as you walk through this door, it activates the next sequence, regardless of where the boats are. As you can see, all the boats proceed to come through the closed door. So it really is important there for the player to be at that door rather than fighting the spiders in the back of that tunnel. The audio also glitches out here so that sounds of machine guns fire start to echo and pile up. It's a little bit of an audio mixing mess, but don't worry about it. It'll stop at the end of Escort Run B. Only another minute and a half. No big deal. Here we destroy these containers as well as the spider and jetpack enemy that appear. Destroying these seems to cause the exit door to open faster without having to fight the enemies in the third room. So I go ahead and destroy them. And then that door should open right away. Yep, there it is. And then we head on down to the end part. So now some spiders. This is the final room where we're going to be accompanying the boats. The spiders are going to drop from the ceiling along with the jetpack guy. We want to kind of keep it clear just to make it easier. You'll notice I've started using the Valhalla class rocket launcher. The Valhalla class rocket launcher is really useful because it has a spread rocket fire. At a certain point, at a certain distance from the player, the rockets spread into a cluster. And you might think, well, the single rocket probably does as much damage as the cluster of rockets, right? Wrong. The game really counts the cluster of rockets as like 6 times or however many projectiles there are, the amount of damage. And so it's really vital to have the cluster spread just before impacting the enemy because it really does as much damage as possible. Important note: if you're listening to this commentary in an attempt to learn the speed run, there is a skip here where you can jump onto an obstacle in the ceiling and clip over this door. I've never had any success doing it, and Albert Hammock has not come up with, as far as I know, he could probably correct me, a consistent way to do that skip. So, but that might be something. We'll save a few seconds there of waiting for that door to open up. But again, it is not. I did not consider it worth the risk at this time because it's very easy to get stuck. So now here's another door skip. It's going to be a little different. Instead of climbing onto the door, I'm going to climb onto these grooved walls to the left and right of the door and then jump kind of forward behind the door. It's, again, attempting to do what we did with the sewer door skips where we were jumping onto the area behind the door, but like emphasis on jumping instead of walking. So here we're going to deal with our buddy Sanguinar, and because we have the better rocket launcher, because we have the better plasma weapon, we're going to be able to do a lot of damage to this guy really quickly. It's going to be a good fight. Ideally, if you're really quick about this, you can take him out in this room. The Sanguinar fight can take place across 2 rooms. It's sort of a timed fight because of how the liquid is rising. But as a speedrunner, your goal really is to take him out before you get to the second room. And so doing that, I think what you really want to be focused on is shooting him as soon as he comes out and trying to get 2 of the cluster rocket hits on him per ascension, I would say. That's sort of, I think, the sweet spot. When you're using the plasma weaponry, sometimes they'll go down after 1 rocket hit, and so you want to kind of, be aware of that so that you're really making the best use of your rockets. Thankfully, each of those rockets only counts as a single rocket, as opposed to counting as 6 rockets. So the return on investment from the Valhalla class rocket launcher is astounding. It's a very good value, and who doesn't love a circus of value? Right, so we're almost at the part where we get to the second room. I think I'm okay here. I think I am going to take him out in the first room here. We're pretty close on it. I think this is... Yep, there you go. So he's fallen now. took care of him in the first room, which is what we wanted. And so now we're on to Trainwreck, which is a sequence where we're going to try and track down more of the embryos that are being used to power the evil prototype weapons. You notice there I got knocked back. That's important because that's the main way that you can die in this game. The main I mean, you can take damage and die. It's possible. But the real threat is that knockback in this game isn't really animated correctly. It just sort of instantly shoots you back. And so what that means is that you really need to be careful of that. You want to become aware of where enemies are likely to do that to you, and you want to take steps to avoid it. This game does not have quick save, quick load. It has save and load, but you have to go through the menu, and it takes a while. There, I picked up the saturation cannon, the cyclone saturation cannon. Super useful weapon, very powerful primary fire weapon. Eats your ammo up very quickly, but it is worth it. So now we are mostly navigating the mega city to get past our enemies, trying to avoid. So some of these enemies, for example, the one enemy had the pushback laser that we saw earlier. There are other enemies as well, the sort of police-looking enemies, that they have a dash attack that pushes you back, which we definitely want to avoid. Important thing to note, when you're doing that diagonal movement, you do jump farther as well. So that's another reason why it's really useful to do. All right, now we're on to Trainwreck C. I think this might be. I think there is a death in this run, and I think this is where it is. So this will be a good illustration of what not to do right here, I think. Yep, right there. So you can see instant pushback, no opportunity to jump, and pushes me right out. So that's the sort of there's a laser enemy there. He always spawns there. You want to avoid him, not get hit by the laser. That will push you off. So that's a perfect example of the most common cause of death in Slave Zero. But of course, you will always just instantly restart at the end of the level. So it's not a huge deal if you're just learning the game. It's not going to be a run killer, but. There, I use the ledge grab to come up behind the enemy to avoid having to deal with him. So here is the train array boss battle. We want to two-cycle this. What's going to happen is that the arena will rotate, and then every so often we'll be able to shoot that red dot. These enemies aren't a big deal, but they also drop enemies with push lasers into the arena, and those are kind of the one of two obstacles that prevent us from just unloading. You can use a Valhalla cluster to take those enemies out pretty quickly, which is really what we want. So we really want to get all the Valhalla rockets on it, because ideally we're gonna get it out 50%. I'm moving forward and back so I don't get hit by a push laser. I still get hit by a push laser, but the good news there is that I did enough damage to effectively have the train array's health. You really want a two-cycle. I do not think you can one-cycle the enemy. But I think two-cycle is kind of the most optimal approach. When entering the arena, it is possible with some weapons to do damage before fully entering the arena and activating this rotating sequence. But I have not had too much luck doing it with a weapon that would be fast. So this boss fight may change, but I think right now this is kind of the best way to go, where you use the saturation cannon and the Valhalla rocket launcher. As you can see, it's two-cycled very cleanly there. So now we're on to go and rescue some embryos. So again, we're avoiding police enemies who are going to try and push us, and also avoiding the push lasers from the large blue enemies. At the end here, what we need to do is, I think this is just one part where we need to just jump down off this ledge for the victory. Yeah, so this victory condition is simple. Just make it to the end of the level. Ooh, now we get to some fun parts. We have to jump down the train tracks. Here, that's actually a bottomless pit right there. So you want to avoid that. Jump over here. Jump over to the left. Fall down. Chase this guy. Thankfully, there are some arrows that point you in the right direction. But it can be pretty easy. As short as these levels are, if you don't know where you're going, you definitely can get lost. Yeah, go up and then back down into a different set of train tracks. You can see the enemy doing their dodge attack there. It pushes me to the side. Yep. Sometimes I just get pushed. I've actually been pushed out of bounds a number of times in this game. I got pushed again through, I think, through a wall. Yeah, recovering from getting pushed is actually a secret speed ingredient for sure. All sorts of wacky things can happen when you're getting pushed. So you just have to kill this one guy here. You can see he entered that invincibility state, but we're going to just go past him, wait for an enemy spawn there, and then we're able to get in the elevator and move on to the next level. So here's our first encounter with the Shiva enemy. This is much like the other blue enemy. This will become a sort of reoccurring mini boss that they will throw at us in many parts of the rest of the game. We did pick up a new plasma weapon there, which is pretty nice. There are 3 of those police dashers in there, which are difficult to get by, but we do it. So here I use the plasma weapon to get rid of this guy, jump down onto this barely visible train track. This game, again, is a 1999 PC game, has some interesting gamma issues. I do have my brightness turned all the way up for this game. So now these 4 embryos we have to defend. If the embryos get destroyed, we will have to restart this portion of the level, Embryos C. So now we get to a very vertical level called High Climb, where we're going to spend a lot of time climbing. It's pretty. It's interesting. I appreciated the verticality of a lot of the city levels in this. I think they're some of the best levels in the game. Also, some of the riskiest though, because you can absolutely get push lasered into destruction. Here we have to destroy these enemies that are being dropped off in order to open this door. And so again, we do that with our saturation cannon and our Valhalla rockets. Don't have to fight those boys, just enter the elevator and move on. Yeah, as much as possible, I try to jump over the police enemies because it's really hard to tell when they start up a dash attack, and it's very easy to get flung into oblivion. So here we climb the tower in order to jump over this guy and straight into the end part of the level. Here we have to destroy the jetpack enemies first, and then some additional flying enemies arrive, destroy both of those, and then the door opens. And now a large blue enemy will be dropped off, and we're able to destroy him even before you can land, and that opens this door, and we just go straight into the elevator. All right, so now we're on the last part of High Climb. Mostly just trying to avoid getting knocked off. Whenever you hear the push laser noise winding up, if you're close enough to the enemy to hear it, you just want to jump right away. That usually will enable you to avoid getting hit by that. Here we do need to destroy another one of these enemies being dropped off in order to open the elevator. There, the elevator opens, and we go straight to a boss fight with the double dragons. The Revenant Prime. Well, so there's one dragon, and then it like joins with the other one. At this point, I'm shooting it with the saturation cannon to get it to enter into this stage where it blows up the. Because what happens is once you do enough damage, it activates a trigger for the two halves to join, and it's going to blow up whatever tower you're standing on. But the fact that it's so stationary makes it a perfect opportunity to unload on it with the Valhalla rockets, which, as you can see, really do a lot of damage. And in fact, we've done so much damage that it's pretty much going to come up. It does like one quick pass with its previous state, and then returns to the this mode where it's blowing things up, blowing up the towers. So pretty clean fight. Usually you only let it blow up 2 towers. Now we're going to trade in our saturation cannon for a siege cannon. The siege cannon has a much bigger area of effect and does more damage quickly, and there's a lot of small enemies that we need to destroy. So one-shots these jetpack enemies and some of the other sentries. There is an argument to be made for still using the saturation cannon, but I think for the time being, I like the siege cannon for the enemies that we do have to destroy. All right, so we're able to get up to this first elevator in Dropships A. Here we're supposed to fight a ship, but much like last time, you might have noticed I just used the weird hitbox above the spawner to jump up onto the wall that allowed me to get out of bounds and get behind the door and quickly finish Dropships A. Here I have to defeat 3 of 4 enemies out here in order to progress. Yeah, see, I'm having trouble nailing them with the Valhalla rockets. I thought I had killed the other guy. There we go. So that allows me to get in here. And you can see I'm backing up there in order to allow the Valhalla rocket launcher to hit that at the right distance, to hit that enemy. In a lot of these rooms, I'm going to be targeting specific enemies because I know those are the enemies that open the doors. So this shield boy, I'm going to try and jump back so I hit him with the cluster rockets. Once he falls over, move on. But for example, that enemy, doesn't matter. Don't need to fight that guy. So here's another example where I'm going to use that funky hitbox to jump over and onto this. I'm almost dead here, but we're fine. Pick up some health in the crates, run past that guy, and up to the next elevator. Right, so that's a great example of the siege cannon being effective. I'm able to just focus fire those enemies together and open the door as quickly as possible. Thankfully, none of these elevators require destroying enemies to progress, which definitely makes the run much smoother. So here we have to actually fight this this particular dropship this time, but we're able to stand in a location where enemies pretty much stop attacking us because what'll happen is whenever they spawn, they'll just explode. And so while they're busy dying to whatever's up there that's causing them to die, we unload with the siege cannon and especially the Valhalla rockets. You can see the Valhalla rockets are really chunking Pegasus too. And we're able to get through this boss fight pretty quickly. So we do have to kill these 2 enemies to progress. That opens the door. Yep, that's the voice of Charles Martinet, Mario, calling out to us. So in Exo Rescue AB, we have to rescue the exosuits that will form part of the prototype weapon that we're trying to steal from the bad guy. In particular, this first sequence here real risk of them killing the exosuit. In the second and third exosuit rescues, the enemy AI doesn't target it so aggressively, but the enemy really targets this endoskeleton quite aggressively. And so it's very important to guard this one and to take care of the enemies. There was a spawner to the right there that you really need to take care of, and it's really just vitally important because you will fail this if you don't have them taken care of. You can see here I'm searching for primary and energy weapon ammo, not finding any, so I have to take out these boys with just the rockets, which is, okay as long as I'm good at it, They aren't so bad for taking out these guys here, so which is nice. I think I actually get that one. No, I get neither of them on the first try, but it's okay. Second try. Second try is basically first try. So now we get to stress much less about the endosuit rescue, the endoskeleton rescue. We can just focus on destroying the enemies that we need to destroy. After clearing all those enemies, we are able to progress. Now, instead of fighting that guy in the middle, we take out the spawners, and then it will open this door eventually. Thankfully, that enemy did drop full health. Some of these enemies are very nice like that. So here we're going to grab onto this column, jump diagonally forward, grab onto that ledge, up and over to the next column, up and over. And then we're going to drop down here onto the area that's spawned behind this door. And that will conveniently get us past. We do have to kill these enemies at the bottom here. And we want the jetpack enemies up top as well in order to open this next door. And then we get to fight, I think it's just the spawner and some of these enemies to open this door. Yeah. There we go. And yes, the spawner and any enemies that come out of it. And then we take the elevator up. Here we're able to grab onto the ledge just south of that track in order to get up quicker. And then we use the hitbox above the spawner to jump up, and then we fall right on the area behind the door. And then we jump over, and this spawns in the elevator that we need to ride down to end the level. So we do have to kill these 3 guys in order to progress. That opens the door. We don't have to fight this guy. He's going to tell us there's no escape, and then we jump over him and leave. Again, we're going to use a spawner hitbox in order to get onto this ledge. Sometimes you do get stuck on it. I can't promise they're stable, but use that to get over the door. Fall down, grab the health. We do have to destroy the enemies here. Their AI is a bit mucked up at this point, so they're really just sort of sitting ducks. Similar story here. We have to destroy, I think, 3 or 4 enemies in the room, so we avoid fighting this middle guy. Instead, take out the 2 jetpacks and the blue enemy. Now, we do pretty much have to clear out everyone here because we're basically stuck in this room for the remainder of this level, so there's no reason really not to just clear everyone out. The enemies aren't really targeting the endoskeleton, so mostly we can just take them out, and then there is a possibility this level soft locks. If you aren't getting the jetpack enemies continuing to spawn, you may be done. You may be donezo. But the good news for me is that the enemies continue to spawn, so we're fine. All right, so now that we have finished up with the Exo Rescue levels, we're going to move on to the DMAT rifle, a powerful prototype weapon for our powerful prototype weapon. I heard you liked powerful prototype weapons. So we get a similar drill here where we have to kill enemies to open doors. This guy usually has a full health, which I will kill him for. And then we proceed to the next door. We pretty much have to kill everyone in this room except the Shiva. So, go around on my siege cannon, hit everyone, and then the door opens. This is an example where the siege cannon is really useful. I need to hit all of these guys as I'm running to the door so that that door in the back opens. And then I'm able to destroy those two at once with the large area of effect. So here we don't have to fight this enemy. This sequence, DMAT Rifle B, they want you to go and disable both the energy things for this door. We don't need to do that. There's no reason to do that. We're able to use a mantle to clip through a wall and jump behind the door, and we're able to progress. Now we just have to fight these shield enemies to open the doors. That guy drops a full health, very helpful. Right, so killing that guy on the ground opens up the door. At this point, we're working our way towards the boss of the level. We have to destroy these two blue enemies in order to open the last door to the boss. Right, so now this elevator will take us down to the boss of the level. This boss is pretty interesting. She's got a bit of health, but once again, our rocket launchers, the Valhalla rocket launcher, really does work. I should mention that there was a section where you could have picked up what the game thinks is an upgrade, but the game is really wrong. There is no rocket launcher better than the Valhalla rocket launcher in terms of damage output. It's just kind of hard to beat. So we're going to strafe around, hit her with the Valhalla rocket launcher and the siege cannon. And once she gets down to about half health, she's going to drop a weapon. See, she just dropped it right there. This is a new energy weapon, and it's pretty much the key to the rest of the game. So now we're going to switch over to our energy weapon, charge it up. You hold down the button, charge up about 50%. You can see the ammo fuel into it. And then you one-shot her. And that's it. That's the end of that boss. So now we are pretty much on the path to the remainder of the game. This weapon that we picked up, the DMAT rifle, so powerful that it has a huge hitbox, does no damage to the player, and even only using like 10 ammo. Like, we'll just take out a huge chunk of the screen. So we're going to use that as much as possible to clear out enemies that potentially would knock us off. You might notice that there is a lot of risk of that here. I'll also use it to open the door there. But pretty much anywhere where there's an enemy that's going to be able to knock us off, we just want to throw a little orb at them to get through that as quickly as possible. All right, now to upper City B, probably the most dangerous level in the game in terms of risk of dying, which is really why you want to be using this weapon as much as possible to clear out enemies that can knock you back. Again, that's the name of the game, and that's because that's how you're going to die. There's enough health in this game that dying from damage isn't too much of a risk. It's really falling to your death that is the real risk. You can see anytime I see a push laser enemy ahead, I just throw an orb at them and it one-shots them. Thankfully, taking damage does not interrupt mantling. You can see here, that's I dodged 2 dashing enemies, killed enemies with push lasers, and then I'm able to proceed straight to the end here. That's a really dangerous level for sure. Bad things can happen there. So now we're approaching the door to the final bad guy's level. We are going to pick up some additional energy weapon here, the energy ammo, which is pretty much essential for defeating this end area. Fire a single 10 charge shot there. Now we want at least like 20 charges for each of these enemies here, because you need like 20 or 30 charge to take out those guys, and then a few more enemies drop. We 20 charge them to take care of all of them and refill our health one more time with the ammo pickup from that guy. Now it's on to the apocalypse levels. One feature of these levels, as opposed to other levels, is that there are a number of doors that you have to blow up. So ideally, you want to be using the demat rifle to blow up the doors as well as blow up enemies that could potentially be stopping you. There are a few rooms where you can pick up additional energy ammo, as it may be useful. There's an enemy here. This guy drops energy ammo. I will often kill him. Yep, you can see there I picked up 70 energy ammo. Very useful. You can jump over him, but the utility of the ammo is pretty good. These final doors you pretty much just run through. You don't have to actually blow them up, those last 2 doors. So now we have a very confusing labyrinth in order to get through Apocalypse B to the final boss stage, and I think this is the section where I choke away a sub 50 run because I think I get lost, which is a hell of an indictment to me. There are some really damaging push laser enemies down here that have some really evil AI, so you want, as quickly as possible, you want to take care of them with the orb. Yeah, so I turned around there, which was my mistake. I meant to go right there instead of turning around, and then I'm like, oh god, where am I? What year is it? Am I playing Slave Zero? I hope this isn't the Dreamcast version. Yeah, folks, don't play the Dreamcast version of this game. It is very bare bones. Yep, and so now I finally find the exit after choking away. Sub 50. Rest in peace, me. So the final boss, the Sovkhan, his deal is that you pretty much need to hit him on his head with the demat rifle, or otherwise you're not really gonna do damage. The way I typically do that is I charge up all the ammo I have in my energy weapon, and I wait for him to stay still. If you're a more confident person than I am in projectile speed, you can go ahead and try and get him while he's moving. But at this point, I just wait. I just charge it all the way up, consume all the ammo in one shot. You can hear him just holding down left mouse, and then I wait for him to stand still and hit him in the face. You really, really don't want to be trying to kill him with other weapons because it really won't do that much damage. Yeah, I missed that shot. My eternal shame. There we go. GG. So, Slave Zero, pretty simple speed run, pretty fun. I definitely had fun with it. Thank you so much to Albert Hammock, who really found most of the tech for this game, and I hope you enjoyed this commentary. Take care.